Well, Mark Reckless, what do you think the Prime Minister should do about it? I mean, if there is something going on that is, maybe not coherent, but just a lot of talk that's uncomfortable for everyone, what should David Cameron do?
I was at the conference. I spoke immediately after the Home Secretary on Saturday.
That must have been a bit of a difficult gig.
Well, we had a panel. I was on with Robert Halfon and Daniel Hannan, so that was a challenging
yes,
challenging
I take
group.
that back.
But what I found it quite refreshing to hear from him. I'm on the Home Affairs Committee, and I hear from him pretty regularly, explaining the official line as to what the Home Office is doing. But to actually hear her explaining what Conservatives were trying to achieve, I thought was good. We're always hearing the Liberal Democrat ministers saying what they're trying to do. Yeah. I'd like to hear our best ministers out there explaining what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a pretty churlish person who criticised a cabinet minister for talking in broad terms about what the purposes of a government were. Absolutely, let's take that on board. But there is, as Eleanor Laing points out, there's an awful lot of chatter going on, and it's difficult for your party when you're under 30% in the polls, when people are looking over their shoulders at UKIP. I know they haven't won a seat yet, but they're dangerous to you. What do you think Prime Minister should do about it?
Well, I mean, on UKIP, I'd do what the Home Secretary was doing on Saturday. I'd explain what we're doing. We're halfway to cutting immigration to the tens of thousands, to doing what we promised. And on Europe, I'd say, if people want to vote for an independent Britain, they need to vote for a Conservative government that will give them that chance. The Prime Minister supports an in-out referendum. We haven't got the numbers to deliver it in Parliament now, but that's what the Conservative Party and our Prime Minister want to do.
What may be puzzling some people, Eleanor Laing, is that if what Mark Reckless says is true, and that is a popular appeal to people, why are you at 27% in the opinion polls?
Well, it depends which question you ask, of whom and when.
Well, the question is, do you want a Conservative government? People say 27% do.
Yes, I do find that surprising, because the fact is, actually, the Prime Minister is doing a really good job on education, on welfare reform, on immigration,
well, what's the explanation?
And on Europe.
There must be one.
Well, when you ask people in opinion polls, who are you going to get who say, well, very few people are going to say, oh yeah, everything's fine, we like this party, we like this government. Of course, the economy is not doing well, people are having a hard time, and inevitably they criticise the government for that. What we do now have to do is, and David Cameron is perfectly capable of doing this, and so is George Osborne in the budget, we now need to show that it's Conservative policies that appeal to the vast majority of people in the middle of our country.
This is the nuts and bolts of it. Mark Reckless, the Chancellor has a very good line that he uses all the time about the last Labour government and head balls and so on, and it gets cheers. And, on your side of the House, it goes down very, very well. The problem is, out there in the opinion polls, people say, well, yeah, but we still want the other lot in, according to the opinion polls. Now, what does George Osborne have to do? Not in detailed policies, but what does he have to project at the budget to turn that round?
He has to keep on governing in the national interest. I mean, the reason...
Come on, be a bit more specific. I mean, everybody has to govern in the national interest. What do you mean?
Let me be specific. And the reason I think we're in the difficulties we are is Labour spent all the money. What we're doing is we're cutting the deficit, we're putting the public finances back in order. But what we also need to do is sort out the banks. Labour completely lost control of them. We had these massive
And you don't think the
economy.
banks have been sorted out yet?
I think in terms of RBS, there's been a huge improvement. I mean, we've got that balance sheet right down. And I think once we start getting the banks lending, and the funding for lending scheme at least is working, and I think we're beginning to see people accessing mortgages more easily than before. We need to carry on with that and get the economy back on track. I believe we're doing it.
In a sentence, politically, Eleanor Laing, what does he have to do?
He has to cut taxes for people right in the middle. Labour is wrong to say that people who earn £40,000 are rich. They're not. We're a family that has £40,000 or £50,000 is just managing. We shouldn't fall into the trap of believing that that means they're rich and that they should be in some way punished for that. They should be helped. They should be helped in order to get on with working and getting the economy back on its feet again. So we need tax cuts for the people in the middle of our society.
Eleanor Laing, Mark Reckless, thank you both.
Thank you.